Hey guys, welcome back to the Engage Your Destiny podcast. I'm Ben Peterson. I am blessed to be the founder and CEO of Engage Your Destiny. And we are seeing God move in the military all over the world, in places that you or I can't even imagine how dark they are, and where the defenders of freedom are going to protect you and I. So I want to ask you, will you support Engage Your Destiny? Will you go to engageyourdestiny.org and make a tax-deductible donation and support this great work as we are ministering to our warfighters? I also want to encourage you to like, share, and subscribe to this podcast so that we can help get it all over the country and all over the world to encourage more military veterans and their families. Guys, thank you for being a part of this mission. And now we're pressing play on part 2 of Brad's story. You will not be disappointed.
This is the Engage Your Destiny podcast, where your destiny is our mission. Serving our active military, veterans, and families. Welcome to the show.
So not only was I a new platoon commander with new guys for the most part, going out into one of the most hostile and dangerous places in the world, I now had to keep a group of civilians alive and safe. And by the way, all of us are worried that if we mess up, it's now going to be on
film.
And national TV. And that was like,
And the Navy was cool with that.
the Navy wanted it for sure, because Hurt Locker had just came out.
Yeah.
Recruitment was up.
Yeah.
They wanted more people to come into Navy EOD, special operations, diving, NSW, and this was just another way to get the story out.
Yeah.
And I remember my commanding officer sitting me and my chief down and be like, "Hey, we chose you guys. You're going to do this." And me and my chief just looked at each other and were like, "All right, if we're going to do it, we're going to do it well." I went down and briefed the guys, and they were against it hard, fighting it really hard. Until a very pretty producer came in named Katie Gilbert, and all of a sudden they were like, "Let me show you everything."
Oh,
And
yeah.
they just let the floodgates
Hey,
open.
can I take you through this?
Yeah, and I'm like, "Oh, you guys are real Stonewall Jackson."
Yeah.
But we get to Afghanistan, and like one of the first days we're there, we go do routine disposal of some stuff that had been picked up or found out,
Yeah.
and we set up the shot, like a half mile away from our truck. Had the film guys come out there, set up GoPros around it, and they were like, "Hey, you guys stay here. We'll go back to the truck and just make sure everything's set up." And they had radios on them. We called down to them, and we're like, "Hey, just so you know, you're sitting on several hundred pounds of explosives. I have the trigger in my hand. If you make any one of us look bad, we can make this look like an accident." And it was not a joke. And after that, I felt like we really had their buy-in. And then just a couple weeks in,
So you guys set up that moment.
yeah, we set up that moment. Like we needed to trust them as much as they needed to trust us. Like you don't have guns, you don't have any training in this. Do exactly what I say, or there's a high likelihood you will die. And so that was a defining moment for them. But once we got through that moment, we had them in our trucks going on all the missions that we deemed safe-ish, which was basically like, if we were going to be in a convoy and we were going up against something routine and we didn't do anything much dismounted, we would take them with us. But we found out within about a week or two, we had a very high-powered camera system that had FLIR, infrared, and different remote sensing capabilities on it, but it was like in, 1080 HP. And these guys were able to plug their cameras into that camera and look through it and to take film through that camera. They'd spent so many years behind a camera. They were so good at it.
Yeah.
They were looking at the different sensors and picking out things that were possible IEDs before we ever could see them.
With the camera crew.
With their camera crew. So they just became an integrated part of our team.
What a blessing.
And they were amazing. And they brought in unique life stories, unique capability. So we just incorporated them into the team.
Yeah.
And they were just awesome assets.
Wow. What was the hairiest moment you had on that tour?
The hairiest moment, that was one episode, I think like episode 10. It's called Firefight.
Yeah.
We were going down this road named Shock Road to go meet with some leaders, and there was some Taliban influencers trying to influence that area. We've tried to go down this road several times before and just hit IED after IED. And this time they're like, we're going down no matter what. We had a huge convoy package, dozens of trucks. And we must have cleared 2 dozen, 3 dozen improvised explosive devices on the way down.
So fun. This is something I've never understood. You go down there in your bomb suit. You found an IED, right?
So initially, we always try to put out a robot and do everything as remote as possible first.
Yep.
Only in a dire situation of life or extreme destruction of like very sensitive equipment will we ever go hands-on immediately. But
So it's not like a Hurt Locker.
multiple times
Yeah.
that happens.
Right.
There's a tripwire, there's people around, you're standing on something, and you have to go
Well,
hands-on.
why don't they just blow you up? Why do they let you
So
disarm it?
it depends on how the IED is set up. Some of them are pressure.
Okay.
So you have to apply a certain amount of pressure.
Like a truck driving by.
Some of them are just for anti-vehicle for trucks. Some of them are small for personnel that just want to blow a toe off or blow a leg off and just slow the whole formation down. Some of them are a remote control. And we would come in with electronic jammers around our convoy so they couldn't get the electronic control to go. Some were command detonated where they would see you come and they had just a hard wire that would come. So there was every form that you had to think about.
Yeah.
What's the threat? What's the most likely? What is this IED going to be? And how is it going to kill me? And then, not only how is that going to kill me, what am I not seeing around me that's going to kill me?
Yeah.
Do they have a secondary device, a tertiary device? They have a string of devices lined up. Everything out there could kill you.
And can the bomb suit actually stop? Like, can the bomb suit actually stop a bomb from blowing you up?
It depends on how close you are to the bomb.
Yeah.
And then how big it is.
Yeah.
But if that's your last resort, it's your last line of defense and safety, you're going to use it to try and give yourself the highest likelihood of success. But more often than not, and by the time we got there, we only broke out the bomb suit a couple of times because the Taliban and Al-Qaeda had now seen EOD. They knew what they were capable of. They knew that we were defeating their devices, and they would use snipers to shoot the EOD techs. So we didn't want to stand out. We often wore Army uniforms, so we looked like just every other grunt, so our EOD guys wouldn't get targeted.
Yeah. So the hairiest moment, you come in through Shock Avenue.
Yeah.
What
Coming
happens?
through Shock Road, we finally get down to the village. The Army dismounts, crosses maybe 2 or 3 football field distance into this village. And they're speaking with the elders there. And then it starts to get dark. The Army guys are crossing back across the wadi, and then just all hell breaks loose. We start taking indirect fire, direct fire from small arms, and then RPGs start flying. We finally get all the Army guys like back into a truck, not even their original. We just stuffed dudes in our truck, and we were like, all right, we just got to push. We got to get out of here. And as soon as our convoy pushed, the truck behind me blows up.
Oh my gosh.
And so now I'm up in the turret. I'm firing on all these targets that are coming at, and RPGs flying.
With a 50 cal?
I got a 240 Gulf
Okay.
on this one. But at the time, now the weather's starting to turn. So it went from like maybe a balmy 40 or 50 now in like the teens.
Yeah.
And so my barrel started freezing up as I was using the gun so much. It starts jamming. I have to just start grabbing small arms weapons from the Army guys below and my other EOD guys in the truck and just start firing. I got the junior guys on the wheel at this point in time, and we go completely blackout so they wouldn't have any lights to be able to target us with RPGs. My enlisted team leader gets out of the front passenger seat and then starts going back with his metal detector to get back to this truck that just blew up behind us, which probably meant we were sitting on the IED for some amount of time ourselves.
Yeah.
And he starts pulling these guys out. They all have lower body injuries, broken legs, broken feet, stuff like that from the blast that came up
In this truck.
So him and a medic start pulling these Army guys out, stuffing more dudes into our truck, getting the healthy guys out. We'll just stuff all the injured guys in our truck. And by this time, like, snow's coming down pretty heavily, and we got everybody in. Comms are starting to break down like crazy. Interference and just chaos of war. And so I just shouting to my driver, like, we just got to get off the X, just drive. And so this truck in front of us wasn't going anywhere. And he pulls off and there was a ledge and our truck just goes over the ledge.
No.
And I thought we were going to roll over. I thought I was going to get smashed. And I was like, that's it.
Which kills so many.
And we had already had all these injured guys in the truck. So luckily we didn't flip. Again, my team leader gets out, hooks a tow onto another truck, and we get luckily pulled out without flipping over.
Gosh.
And then like fight our way off of that X. I think we had to do another couple of IEDs on the way home. And then we get back home, we offload all the injured guys. We're literally scraping out with a broom all the cartridge casings and blood that was just everywhere. And we got to go back out. We got to go get that truck with reloaded guns, gear, and more people.
Because there's more guys in that truck.
Well, it's just sensitive items in there. And we try to bring that equipment back so they can't use any part of it. So that was pretty hairy, but at the time.
So did you go back and get it?
Yeah, we went back and got it. And again, just more IEDs. And it was just a battle in and out every time we went anywhere with that.
And your faith.
I was just like a constant prayer, like, God, get us out of this, protect us, get us out of this.
It's funny because the SEALs like don't pray, from what I've heard and all the interviews I've done. The bomb guys that are getting blown up, you guys seem to, sounds like you pray a little more.
So like, I think it was just a constant, like, I made an effort with my guys before we went out to pray with them.
Yeah.
And you'll see that in the show, but I would like try to pray with them to try and be some kind of spiritual leader out there.
Yeah.
Because that's, I thought, the minimum that I could do. And luckily we didn't lose anybody and we didn't get anybody hurt.
Yeah.
And the teams that had gone before us, either somebody had died or gotten maimed or injured, and teams after us did. I felt so fortunate to bring all my guys back and all the civilian bomb crew back from that deployment unscathed. So I don't know if it was my micro prayers or God's providence over us or what, but getting them back was amazing.
Talk to me about a situation where you're in a combat zone, someone could shoot you, and you are dismantling an IED.
We had got called to do an IED after this big snow, and the Afghan police would set up on these mountaintops across these roads to try and protect the one road that's going through this area.
Yeah.
From people coming planting bombs in it. Well, I guess it snowed. They couldn't make it up, but the Taliban made it up this path and planted these little toe poppers. They were these very small, made out of tinfoil and BBs, about the size of a pancake, and they were attached to an 81 millimeter mortar. Less than a pound of pressure would make these things go off. There was one down low and kind of one up high, and my partner and team leader, Ricky Tebow, went up and took the high one, and I'm taking the low one, and we can't be on the steps. We know that the IEDs are on the steps. So I'm literally scaling the side of this mountain, pulling out my knife and digging it into the side so I can hold on with one hand to my knife, use the metal detector on the other to like sweep and find where the IED is. And about that time is when like shots start going off. We don't know where they're coming from or what they are, but AK rounds. And at that point in time, one thing that we kind of always learned through training was dismantling bombs is like listening to classical music in one ear and rock music in the other. And you just got to focus on the classical music. And so you're just trying to control your breathing, go through all your procedures, don't move too fast, don't do anything stupid. It's just like a thinking man's game. You can't brute force your way through this. So it's really slowing down your heart rate, making the right moves. And so I had a stringer charge on me, which is like C4 on det cord that you can move. And I just had to make sure that I could place it very close to, but not touching, enough to blow this thing up. And had to do it in concert with my other partner who was up dealing with another IED maybe 50 yards away. And we just had to make sure we didn't kill each other. All the time we have Afghan police with us. They're armed, and a lot of times those guys could be Taliban supporters. You didn't know it. So you just never knew when you might get shot in the back while you're trying to do your job.
Hey guys, thank you so much for being a part of the Engage Your Destiny family and listening to the podcast. I want to share with you an exciting new development as God has opened the doors for us to launch our program at Fort Carson, Colorado this summer. Fort Carson, Colorado is the home of the 4th Infantry Division and the 10th Special Forces Group. These are some of the most elite warriors in the world. So we are expanding our program and we need your help. Just for $44 a month, you can support a soldier, feeding them, loving on them, getting the material support, giving them the opportunity to go to Engage Your Destiny retreats and events to bring healing into their life and transformation to their faith. So I want to invite you into this, to join the team and to join the fight as we are expanding our program. And we need to remember that those who are willing to die for their country deserve an opportunity to know the God who died for them. So join us in this and let's advance this ministry together.
I've heard we've done some training and some work in the Army EOD community, specifically out of Fort Bragg. And the feedback that we've gotten from the chaplains is that there's a very high atheist or agnostic, but strong, like there is no God kind of, at least in Army EOD. Is that what you've seen?
I think it's a product and maybe a mechanism of most of the guys that we get are the smartest intellectual guys you can possibly get.
Yeah.
The people that have only people in the Navy that have a higher test score to entry is the nuclear submariners, people that are working on the nukes in the subs. And then our guys are like 1 or 2 points below for acceptance. So we have just an unbelievably high intelligence level. And a lot of times that high intelligence combats faith if they have a worldview that science is the only mechanism, that creation isn't possible. And so a lot of these guys are very technically minded.
Yeah.
So if in faith, if you don't give them apologetics, if you don't give them facts, if you don't give them science, it's very hard for them to believe. And it was a huge barrier to me because that's how I believed. And I had this light faith from just my parents bringing me up, but I needed facts. I needed science. I needed archaeology. I needed things to help me prove or disprove certain things in the Bible. Like where's that at? And that didn't come until a couple of years ago when I really started going down the apologetics route of how science actually works wonderfully to build up what the Bible says and what theologians say.
Does anyone? So I get the intellectual piece. Does anyone have to do with like having life and death in your hands on a consistent basis? And that like you're controlling life and like you're in control of life and death.
I think there's like slightly, I think there's probably an agnostic streak. And I would even say nobody that does EOD, they're not normal. There's no normal person that would go down on an explosive device
and work on it.
I can handle this.
Yes.
Like that's not a regular character trait in anybody.
Do you feel powerful when you defeat the device?
You feel so powerful. It's such an addicting high.
Describe it.
You've been trained to this unbelievable level on being like it's like you're on a USA national basketball team for the Olympics and you got chosen to do that. And when we fly, we often got our own like C-130s or C-5s or C-17s just for my platoon. We felt like rock stars. We got every piece of gear that we wanted.
The Army guys worship you when you show up.
We could wear our hair long. We could have like beards and like everybody's we're bros. The people that came into EOD, they're former Olympians, NCAA champions in different sports. I mean, we have just savage studs and stud women that are in our community. And so you get trained to this high level to go do something very surgical, like a surgeon does. And it's life or death. And when you win against something like that, you feel very powerful. You feel very enabled, which often then later in life, I felt I could handle anything, any terrible situation in life I could handle. It was only when it came to personal relationships that were just dissolving and falling apart around me. I wasn't trained to that. I didn't know how to handle it. and nothing in my training that taught me how to diffuse bombs would help me revive these relationships or help me from wrecking them in the first place.
So you're addicted to porn, closet alcoholic, performing like
High performing alcoholic.
high performing alcoholic. You probably have a pretty good ego.
And high stakes gambling is what we call it with improvised explosive devices.
Okay. So you're a high stakes gambler. And yet you said earlier the story unfolds.
Yeah. So after that Afghan deployment, I then went to do a mine countermeasures deployment. Now I'm in charge of a platoon that's doing all underwater activity.
Have you diffused a mine underwater?
Not in real combat.
Okay.
So all training exercises are simulated.
Got it. But you went to that team.
Yeah, I went to that team. And again, even though you're not in combat, our day-to-day life, every day could be tragic.
Yeah.
And one day we were out doing an exercise called Bold Alligator. My team was on a Canadian minesweeper. Gorgeous day. We're diving at 100 feet against a simulated mine, single diver. We put in our junior guy, who was just a stud. And normally in most military operations, as you said at the beginning of this, we go together 2 by 2. There's some circumstances when you're going against a bomb, we only send one guy down.
Yeah.
And you're the lone guy down there. It's called going down range, and you're the guy. And so this day, Taylor Gallant was the guy. He went down at 100 feet. He was on a Mark 16 rebreather. And in training, we attach him to a float. But in real life, he would just go by himself.
Wow. Just swim down there
with no comms and go to work.
Tank of oxygen
and go.
Wow.
So in training, we had a line with a buoy, and we started getting some weird buoy signals. So we thought it might be emergency.
And there's no comms.
There's no comms.
Wow.
Because underwater mines, they can be set off acoustically, so through sound going through the water, magnetically. So you have no magnetic pieces on you whatsoever. Seismically, like if you hit the bottom or if you make something shudder along there, or a pressure wave going over the mine in a certain signature. So every way that can kill you, not to include every way that just being underwater 100 feet can kill you.
Yeah. And there's current, right?
Current,
Yeah.
sea life, pitch black at that depth. So you're using handheld sonars to try and find the threat. So we get some weird line pull signals. We have to send my chief down. And by the time my chief got down to him, he was unconscious. We bring him back up to the surface and get him over to the emergency chamber. We had done this over and over again in training. And those days before we did this op, just make sure we had everything smooth. And by the time we got him into the chamber, he was dead. And
you were right there.
Hurt more than being in combat. In combat, your mindset, you've already written your letter home. You've already gotten your will and testament done. You've already kind of resigned yourself, like, I could die. But when you're in training, you don't expect it, and it hits you harder, and it hits it differently. And that really, and I was still expected to lead through this. So he had just died. I remembered like praying with my guys and trying to give them strength. And we were just immediately writing down like the timeline, what happened. And I was okay. And then the captain of the ship, the Canadian, came over the ship 1MC and like said to the whole crew, like, unfortunately, we lost a diver. Like, and that's when I broke down. And then my guys held me. And then immediately the ship steams to shore. We go to a hotel and we just start drinking and telling stories about Taylor. And then we were ordered not to go to sleep. So now it's like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. NCIS investigator comes.
Oh, because you have to invest. Yeah.
And they wanted to do an investigation immediately. And we've been working all day, been out on ships preparing for this. We haven't been getting like great sleep. We're already tired. And so now we have this NCIS investigator like just digging deep into everything that we did to see if there's foul play or see if, just to rule out everything. So we go through that. And then we go home. And immediately I was in 2 more different investigations, like a diving mishap board and then active duty death board, where I'm sitting in front of several EOD 06s of our community and from other communities and having to go through everything, every decision I made not just that day, but leading up to that time from I was a platoon commander, showing all of our diving records, showing all our training records. And they were just doing this deep dive into me as a leader, asking just brutal leadership questions. And then, having to admit where we fell short, or we had to cut something, or we didn't have time to do a thing. We had to move past. And the investigation, finally came out that it was, most likely a user error of some sort with the rig. The rig came back fine. So there wasn't a whole lot of closure, but then had to do the funeral with his family. We were out in Kentucky, and the whole town, the whole city came together for that funeral, and I had to speak at it, and it was like such an emotionally draining time. And then we had to jump right back on the train. We got another guy in, like, right when we came back. He had to fill the shoes. We had to get certified and deploy. And then I just kind of felt this. And then when we deployed, they were giving this other team all these jobs. And I felt just jaded, like that they thought I killed one of my guys. And that's why they weren't sending us on the premier jobs to go do. And then I just boiled up into this anger, a very deep, destructive anger that was fed with more alcohol, with more porn. And then came back from that at the very end of that deployment, broke my collarbone, had to come home a couple days early to bury my
How'd you break it?
We were playing ultimate football on
Okay.
a field in Bahrain.
Yeah.
Just a bunch of alpha males out there,
Yep.
like
Came down
just
wrong.
killing each other. Just came down wrong on it, shattered it. I'm in the hospital. Another one of my guys gets in a drunken altercation. He gets in big trouble. They fly me and him back so he can go to captain's mess and I can be there. I get just destroyed by my commanding officer at the time. Right after that, go bury my grandma. And I remember holding my grandmother's casket in a sling, and I couldn't cry. I didn't have any tears. I couldn't even bring the emotion up. And so I didn't even know that was a problem. So no time off, just keep steamrolling. At this point in time, I'm married, and the marriage just starts dissolving. And I'm in grad school, and it was supposed to be like a break, and it wasn't. I still just had the same intensity of combat, but I was just applying it to school, and I wasn't giving myself any rest. And she moved out and moved away, and we tried to do distance, and it just started faltering and fumbling, which just further drove me down pornography and alcohol, and now stepping outside of my marriage and just doing everything that I didn't think was possible. And then she stepped out of marriage, and then we just got divorced. And that was a point in time where I was just angry at God. I was so angry. And so I just started jumping into everything the world had to offer. Just more alcohol, more parties, more women, everything nasty that you could do, just trying to earn more money through side hustles and like try and feel empowered there, posting as much as I could on Facebook and Instagram, showing how awesome my life was on the outside, but how I was just so empty on the inside. And I remember very familiarly when some guy was like, "Man, your life looks awesome. You get to go to so many cool places and do so many cool things." And I was thinking, "Man, your life looks so awesome. You have a wife and you have kids and like stability." And I just had completely forgot that one of the 10 commandments was like, "Thou shalt not covet." And here I was trying to make everybody covet, my life. I was
Yeah.
really just doing it to like cover the pain of a divorce, because divorce is failure. And I don't know if you remember the slogan, initial success or total failure.
Yeah.
And so I just felt like a failure, jumped into another relationship that was just really bad. And at this point in time, I'm like really abusing over the counter sleep medicine just to get a couple hours of sleep a night. And I do another deployment to Bahrain, and now I'm the operations officer in charge of like 12 different platoons operating in Syria and Yemen, doing counter mine stuff in the Red Sea, doing counter Syria stuff. And they're seeing everything, mines, suicide vests, cruise missiles, chemical munitions. I mean, it is just nonstop while I'm there. Get back home from that one, and I'm on empty at this point in time. But at that point in time, I got selected to be the XO executive officer of the Navy Dive School. So back to the training command that I started at, and that's like a dream job. And so I take it, and I thought I was getting out, but I took it, and it was awesome. And I got to work with one of the most amazing mentors. Was my commanding officer named Sam Brassfield. And I don't know if you've seen Ted Lasso,
Yeah.
that show, but we called him the Ted Lasso of Navy EOD.
Oh,
He was
nice.
just that kind of guy. He was
Yeah.
amazing leader, and I wasn't going to church. Not only was I not going to church, I was pulling other people into sin. I was throwing parties, I was throwing ragers. But also I'm supposed to be this exemplary executive officer, like running this training command of just superstars and
Yeah.
studs. And so I'm just on this razor's edge of just about to fall apart. The relationship I was in then and the girl that was living with me, I broke up with her, and I remember going through the gate in the morning, and I never listened to music, and I never really listened to rap music, but I was listening to this somehow rap song, and he was just talking about the best way to go about it was just kill yourself. And I don't know where the song came from. And I'm going through the gate and I'm hearing this song and I'm just crying as I'm showing my cat card to go in the gate. And I pull into my parking spot, which says executive officer over it. And I'm just crying. I'm just empty. And I guess another guy had saw me that worked at another command, and he came in that day and he's like, "Hey, I saw you like crying in your car. Like, are you okay?" Of course, stiff upper lip it. "Yeah, I'm fine. Everything's good. Sorry." And I keep going as XO and trying to do these mentor sessions with the junior officers coming in. And we happened to have a Spanish exchange officer that was there. And he knocked on my door one afternoon. And I was like, "Yeah, come in. What can I help you do? I'm used to just solving problems as I come through the door." And he's like, "Hey, XO, I really want to just see if you're okay." I was like, and I just started crying. I was like, "I'm not. I'm just not okay.
I'm not okay.
Not okay." And he just kind of hugged me and said he loved me. Um, and it just so happened at that point in time, we were trying to build this human performance capability inside the special warfare centers and human performance program. And we were focusing a lot on getting athletic trainers, getting sports and conditioning coaches, physical therapists. And I'm reading this book called On Combat. And it was talking about how 90% of combat is actually here and in here.
Yeah.
And here we're spending all this money, time and talent to like work on the physical part of it. I was like, "Hey," I was talking to my boss. I was like, "I really think we need to get like a sports psychologist in here." And he was like, "Yeah, I agree with you." And he happened to know a guy, um, Dr. Ed Najir. He was a 20-year Navy SEAL, and then became a psychologist after that. And he ran a program in prisons. And this program had the lowest rate of people returning to prison after they went through it. So I was going to be in the test pilot of this course. There were some other instructors that were in there. They were absolute studs, Bronze Star winners, Silver Star winners, just complete idols for combat. Those kind of guys. So you just look at them, you're like, I wouldn't mess with any one of these guys. And we had some of the new students in there that were waiting to class up to see how they would work through it. And within 5 minutes, every single eye in that class was crying. And he asked one question: "Who's the person that hurt you the most?" And at that point in time, like, it was my ex-wife, and the fallout from that. Not that she hurt me that most, but the situation hurt me that bad. And I'd never vocalized it. I never told a single person that I was hurt or that I was struggling or anything. But hearing everybody else's stories of abusive parents or abusive father, abusive relationships, or being abused as a child, sexually or physically, everybody's crying. It's like, oh my God, this is the first safe place I've felt. And at that point in time, maybe 14 years to
Yeah.
be emotional. Because when you're a leader at a special ops unit, like you don't show emotion, like you don't show weakness, you don't show anything. You don't want your guys to feel any trepidation
Yeah, hesitancy.
whatsoever. You're expected to steam first into the worst scenario possible in the worst environment possible against the worst enemy possible and know how to solve the problem.
Yeah.
And this is the first time that I was finally admitting, man, I'm hurting. And then he talked to us about something that I carry with me to this day, and I'll share it to anybody. It was called the resiliency vehicle, like a car with 4 tires on it. Each tire has a purpose, and each tire has to be properly inflated. The first tire is the physical tire. Are you taking care of your physical body? Are you eating right, sleeping right, and exercising? And that's what the majority of the time we've been focusing on.
Yeah.
Then the next one was, are you taking care of the mental tire? And that was, are you able to visualize? Are you able to um, goal set?
Yeah.
Are you able to read things and learn from experience? The next tire, as it starts getting harder, is the emotional tire.
Yeah.
Like, how are you taking care of your emotional health? I'm like, what's emotional health?
Yeah.
What are you talking about? Like
Yeah.
emotional health. But I'd started to feel just from that cry session before, I was like, man, something's not regulated in my system. And then the last one was spiritual health and purpose. And man, that hit me like such a punch in the face. And he was saying, actually, we attack the physical all the time because that's the easiest. We can go to the gym for an hour or two a day. Mental, we can read some books here and there, but where do we get the emotional and the spiritual inflation into our tires? Because if they're not properly inflated, any one of them can send you off the road and down into a ditch. And I had just suffered 2 complete tears in my ACLs. So I was sitting through this class with torn ACLs. First time I couldn't do the physical thing. Like that was just completely taken from me. And it was the first time for the 2 or 3 hours I would normally work out in the morning, I couldn't do anything. So I would read. So at least I was doing the mental portion, and I was trying to work on some like business side hustle stuff. And some of these books were just increasingly talking about the spiritual aspect. And then during that time, is when The Chosen came out. And I remember watching I don't know how I heard about it, or maybe saw it on Facebook or something. And the first episode, I just start bawling.
Yeah. The first one will get you.
And I felt like the character of Mary, who just had so many demons inside of me. And I just needed somebody to release them, to just take them off. I had carried so many chains and put so many rocks in my rucksack over the past 12, 15 years of just nonstop movement, action, and achievement, that I didn't know how to take off any of them. And so, at that point in time, I started reading more books, and one was Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill, and just finding out how the enemy is trying to attack us in every way, through our pride, through overachievement, through the alcohol addictions, through the porn addictions. So I started like trying to fight it on my own accord. I started like learning about fasting. I did a couple fasts, and I was able to break away from alcohol pretty easy. Porn had its hooks into me.
Yeah.
I've been in there for 30 years, and abusing relationships and thinking of women as objects of mine, or things to have for a short time, and never really honoring them. So as I was leaving Panama City, I was going out to California to go to the Navy Special Warfare Command. I stopped in Colorado. I was staying with my brother Craig, and we started drinking. And then we got into a massive fist fight, like brother on brother fist fight. His twin was there. We almost never get together, all 3 of us, because we're all 3 in the military. So one of the few times that my parents were there, Craig and I get into this knockout brawl. And then Micah comes in and tries to choke out. I finally go to leave, and my dad comes out, and my dad's showing emotion, which never happens. And he's like, just don't leave. I was ready to drive drunk and just leave, be gone in the middle of a snowstorm.
Hey guys, thank you so much for being a part of the Engage Your Destiny family and listening to the podcast. I want to share with you an exciting new development as God has opened the doors for us to launch our program at Fort Carson, Colorado this summer. Fort Carson, Colorado is the home of the 4th Infantry Division and the 10th Special Forces Group. These are some of the most elite warriors in the world. So we are expanding our program and we need your help. Just for $44 a month, you can support a soldier, feeding them, loving on them, getting the material support, giving them the opportunity to go to Engage Your Destiny retreats and events to bring healing into their life and transformation to their faith. So I want to invite you into this, to join the team and to join the fight as we are expanding our program. And we need to remember that those who are willing to die for their country deserve an opportunity to know the God who died for them. So join us in this and let's advance this ministry together.
And then I came to California. I had met up with a travel nurse who was also a Christian, and we were having sex. And then I break things off. It didn't feel right. I was trying to do the Bible app and like trying to institute some
You're
religiosity.
trying to find it.
I'm
Yeah.
like trying to find it, search, and then I break things off, and then like a couple weeks later, she calls me back and she's pregnant, and that was like rock bottom. And I felt like pretty estranged from my brother. I'd ruined relationships with my family. I now got this girl that I didn't even know pregnant. Uh, and I didn't have a plan to kill myself, but if I got hit by a bus, I wasn't going to be mad about it. And so I'm struggling through that. And then all I know to do then is just go back to church. And so I go to the Rock Church here in San Diego. Through a crazy circumstance we don't have time to get into now, I meet this guy, Pastor McGuire, and he brings me into a men's group. And then I start learning how you can be a Christian, you can say you're saved, you can be baptized, but the enemy can still have you in bondage in certain areas in your house. And one pastor talked once about how an analogy to a house. You can buy a house, you live in a house, or you rent, right? A house,
Yeah.
right? So technically it's yours. But if you leave that house and you leave a door open or you leave a window open, a robber can come inside your
Sure.
house and can steal, kill, or destroy something in that house. So then it's your job as the owner of that house to close those windows and close those doors.
Yeah.
And that was the first time that I was like, a robber probably got in my house and is hiding in some deep, dark closet of something that affected me when I was 5 years old, the first time I snuck and got porn, uh, that I had never brought to the light.
Yeah.
And so through that men's group and that safe place of community, I'm bringing up stuff I'm 5 years old, about how that affected me and how that affected my sexuality, and how at some points I thought I was homosexual. So I had to like keep having sex with women to prove to myself that I wasn't gay. And I had never spoken of this to another man before.
Wow.
And then after, I was having crazy night terrors. I was sweating through my sheets. I was having very vivid dreams. I was trying to come off of alcohol. I was trying not to use like sleep aids. And finally, like I confessed that to this pastor, and like so nonchalantly, he's like, "Yeah, we'll handle that tonight." I was like, "Well, what?" And
How you
so
gonna do that, cowboy?
yeah, like I'm like, "Oh man, we're gonna have like a seance or something." And is there gonna be some smoke? And we just come in there that night, and he was talking about spiritual warfare and bondages. And the guys just circled around me. I told them what was going on. I confessed some things I'd never confessed to anybody. They laid hands on me, prayed for me, cast out these evil things that I had been doing, or that I felt not even I was doing, that had control over certain parts of my life. And that night I got the best sleep of my entire life. And from then on I was like, oh, maybe that's what I was meant to do. And
Jesus.
maybe that's why I went through all these like pretty hard situations. So now I'm helping to lead the men's group, and I'm helping to lead some of these guys out of bondage, and not from a place of supremacy or being a positional leader, but being just a servant that's gone there before them or has been in the same situation before them. And now it's like I feel the brotherhood now in that Christian men's group that I never felt, or I was really striving for in the military. I just couldn't get it. Um, and then just in a few weeks, like I felt closer to these guys than I felt to any other men in my life. And then through that healing and learning how to say I'm sorry, repaired relationships with my brother. Um, I was going through a long court battle with my daughter's mom, and finally, I just Googled what does the Bible say about going to court? I came up with like 1 Corinthians 6, where it's talking about, and she was a believer, about how believers shouldn't be taking each other to court, how it should be solved in the church. So I called up her pastor and said, "Hey, you know, I want to solve this through the church. Can you help us?" And he was a little bit hesitant, and I was like, "Have you read 1 Corinthians 6, bro? This is your job."
Yeah.
And so he helped us through it, and when she went back home, she linked up with her old high school flame, and he's an amazing Christian man. And through that process, and through the wisdom of Solomon, was another about how Solomon decided between two mothers of who were arguing over this one child, both saying it was their child. And he said, "Bring me a sword, I'll cut the child." And the real mother said, "No, let her have it." And so that really worked in my heart to say, like, I don't want my daughter to be split between two homes.
Yeah.
Have Take her. I trust that God can be the father that I couldn't, uh, to take care of her, and hopefully in some way, somehow, He's gonna reestablish that relationship, and I just have to have faith, and that's still something I'm working through.
Yeah.
And then, man, not shortly after that, I had pretty much just shunned off all women, closed myself off in a monk mode. And all these people were like, "Hey, Brad, you should get out there and start dating again. Like, God's got somebody for you." And I was like, "No, He doesn't." Like, have way too many red flags.
Yeah. And I don't deserve it.
Yeah. Divorce, child out of wedlock, like just crazy things I've had to get through and get over it. And people convinced me to just like get on a dating app. And I read this one book called The New Rules to Love, Sex, and Dating by Andy Stanley. And the main portion of that is, you're not yet the person you want to be with wants to be with yet. So you need to work on yourself and your walk with God, and then God will place somebody in your life once you're ready.
Yeah.
So I get on this, I link up with the most beautiful girl I've ever seen in my life. For some reason, she thinks I'm cute or wants to link up with me. And I go to pick up this guy for our Wednesday night men's Bible study. And I'm telling him, like, I'm going on a date tomorrow night. It's first date in a long time. I feel like I'm damaged goods, but maybe I can just go on a date and start and like knock the rust off and like see if I can just talk to women and have some kind of like courage there.
Yeah.
I'm like a bomb tech. I went down on bombs, but now I'm scared to like talk to women because of the trauma of all the past failed relationships. And he just looks at me cool, calm. He's like, "I pray that's gonna be your wife." And I was like, "Whoa, bro! Like, don't put that on me."
Yeah.
Like, I'm just trying to knock rust off,
Yeah.
just learn how to talk to women again. And I go on that date, and by the end of that date, I'm pretty sure this is my wife.
Wow.
And by the next morning, she came over for breakfast. I was flying out to North Carolina to go see my daughter for 10 days. I was very honest about that. I was very honest about my failures with her on the first day. And by the time she dropped me off the airport, I definitely knew I was gonna marry this girl. And then 4 months later, we were married. And then not long after that, we have our baby, who's just perfect. And as I was just like holding my baby, it's like, "God, I'm so messed up. Like, how could you still love me?" You know? And it was really like just a defining moment to say, I need to be a good man to these ladies so that my daughter knows what a good man looks like. Oh, man, and I just felt in a way like completely redeemed. And it's funny. Lots of people ask me, like, do you have PTSD from combat? I said, not a day. Not one day have I ever had like a bad dream about combat. I like lived for combat. All of my PTSD comes from failed relationships
Sin.
and sin that I put on myself and the breaking of those relationships through my own sin or my own failures. And like that PTSD is brutal. And so trying to let go of that and let God have that every time it tries to pop up, and an evil voice say, like, you're not good enough or you don't deserve this. And I go, no, you're right, I don't. But Jesus covered that.
Yeah.
Like Jesus forgave that. And so now I'm on this new life path of really ministering to men, really stepping out in faith to people I do jujitsu with, other younger guys that are in the military that I just know organically, and helping them step through their faith from a place of empathy, which I had none just a couple years ago, 4 or 5 years ago. On an empathy scale of 1 to 10, I would have been like a -2. I was like very Darth Vader in my personality assessment tests at the time. And now Jesus has just completely transformed my life, and I can slow down and help people in need. Now I can slow down and just be with a person who's hurting. I can cry now, which just didn't happen for
Isn't that amazing?
a long time. And it feels really good. So and even now I'm just trying to surrender more and more of my life to Jesus. Let him take more of those burdens off of me, and like really give back to the next series of warfighters that are going to go out there.
Come on.
They're going to have different struggles. They're going to have different enemies. They're going to have different operating environments that are terrifying to me.
Yeah.
That make the global war on terror look easy, what they're having to step through. So now I know it as my role to like really develop those people spiritually, emotionally, mentally, and physically to carry that watch and carry that weight, and hopefully come back not with damaged relationships.
Yeah. Last question. What is one characteristic about Jesus that makes you say, I want to follow him?
Jesus as a servant, and how he stopped everything in his very busy, very impactful life to wash his disciples' feet. That single act was amazing to me. His act of passion on the cross, unbelievable, undeniable. It's so brutal. It's almost hard to relate to. But when I try to relate to like, can I just wash somebody else's feet? Even that's hard, you know? And I remember just the first time I tried to do that, we had a first fight with Nicole, and we were bringing exterior stuff from past relationships in, and I just said, we got to stop. I got a bucket and got some water and just washed her feet. I said, all that stuff's in the past. All that stuff's gone. And that was the first time I like really felt in just that symbolic moment to her that Jesus just could easily do that. Hey, everything in your past, it's gone. I'm making a new way. He says somewhere in the Bible, like, I'm making a way through the desert. I'm making a path for you. And so for anybody that's out there that you think you're in a desert, or you think you're in a jungle and you're surrounded, or you think you're on a mountaintop alone or a valley alone, Jesus can show up and make a path for you. It can make a way. And no matter how disastrous your past has been, in an instant, Jesus can just wash your feet and forget all of that and set you on a new way. And I think that is the most amazing part about him. He could do it in an instant. Well, yes, but in some ways, he's going to take you on a journey through that too, of multiple feet washings. Like, I keep failing, and Jesus has to keep washing my feet. I keep failing, and keep washing my feet. And I think that act of servitude really stands out to me about Jesus.
Awesome. Thanks, Brad.
Yeah, thank you.
Can I pray for you?
Yeah.
Father God, I just thank you for this man and this warrior and all that you've done for his life and through his life. God, I pray you would take all of the lessons and all the mistakes and use them, Lord, to multiply good fruit in young men and women today.
Yes, Lord.
Father, I pray for this man as a father, that you would use his fatherhood for healing and restoration in his life and in his family line. And God, I pray for your favor on his life, that God, you would give him your desires and make his desires yours. God bless him and give him your strength in Jesus' name.
Amen. Amen, brother. Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah.